Welcome. My name's Colleen Wilson, and I'm so excited to have these few minutes to spend with you today and share a really cool concept and an amazing heartthrob of education. And I think you're going to agree with that in just a moment as well. This is part of Jacksonville University's Fin faculty preview, and we can't wait for you to join us on campus. But until then, we're going to do some learning here today. So I have three things I'd like for you to consider while we're talking today. I want to be able to introduce this amazing person today and the importance of the work. I'd like to highlight the levels of instruction and learning, and I want to give you a strategy, something you can take with you after today to make this learning powerful for you, because there's no point in talking about things on a very abstract level if you can't do something with them. So let's get ready. So as we think about our learning targets and we think about this heartthrob of education who has transformed so many things, I'd like to challenge your thinking and your memory a little bit. When you hear the words, and all of these are attributes of this founding theorist, when you hear the words collegiate athlete, what comes to your mind? How about an avid reader? What do you see in your mind? Someone who's intensely curious. What do you see in your mind? Oh, and then this is where they were born, Lansford, Pennsylvania. So if you've been in the Pennsylvania area, you know what the land looks like in the geography, and it's quite beautiful. And then I would imagine at this point in time, we didn't even have terms such as first-generation college student, but that is truly the story of this person. So mental pictures are so important because I'm being really clear with the words and those characteristics I'm using. But in your mind, when you take a word and you transform it in your brain, words become very flexible and words become very imprecise. We're not really even sure that we're seeing and understanding the same thing, although I think I'm being very clear. And in your mind, your pictures are also very clear. So what we know in education is that you are actually right in the middle of my words and the meaning. So your background, your environment, your experience, all of those things takes my very crystal clear words and makes them flexible. So your mental pictures could be totally different than everything else that I was thinking and trying to get across. So let's imagine what's in our words. When you heard the words and saw them on the screen, a collegiate athlete, what was your picture? What did you have come to mind? Was it something like football or baseball or volleyball? Well, this founding theorist was a college athlete in handball. Handball. You can't even find a good picture of handball anymore. But this happens to be number 6 ranked Sal Duenas, who is a handball athlete. And you can see the physicality of this sport. How about an avid reader? What was your picture? Did you think of a person holding a book, like all those little clip arts we've seen? Were they sitting under a tree? Did you see a male, a female, a child? Did you have any guesses that Shel Silverstein would have been the picture? Was that the picture in your mind? Probably not. He doesn't really look like the person who would have written The Giving Tree and children's poetry. But he was an avid reader as well. And then our founding theorist, a person who changed education because of his passion and his research abilities and his ability to get folks to work together. What did you think of? This one's a little bit easier for most folks because we have some clues here. Founding, for most of us, we've seen in our history books. We've seen the founding fathers. We've seen people that we think are going to be founding. And yet, did you come up with this person? Because this is the person we're going to talk about today. This is Dr. Benjamin S. Bloom. Ladies, seriously? Ben Bloom was the one that designed the cognitive taxonomy with his colleagues. Ben Bloom was the one who helped us have language in education that we use now to write objectives. And we're going to learn to use this to help you improve your college and high school performance in class. All of that is Ben Bloom. And oh, by the way, this is the OG taxonomy. This is not just like any old taxonomy. Ben and his friends got together and decided we needed taxonomies, levels of learning with specific words so we knew where kids were, so we could make their lives different and have an academic impact. Ben was the one who helped us realize that there's a cognitive domain, which is what this is, which is how we think. There's an affective domain, which is how we feel. And there's a psychomotor domain, which is how we move. And later on, when Ben was older and moving on in life, his friends got together and were reading some of his work and realized maybe we needed to re-look at this foundational taxonomy. And perhaps this quote from Ben was one of the reasons why they felt this was important. Because Ben said, creativity follows mastery. Creativity follows mastery. So mastery of skills is the first priority for young talent. What do you do when you're starting out in T-ball? Do you get to play the game right away? Or do you spend hours practicing getting that muscle memory down for how to swing a bat, how to keep your eye on the ball? You have to have mastery of skills before you can move to Little League. And so Ben's friends got together and updated Bloom's taxonomy. So you could be dealing with someone who still is working with the OG taxonomy from 1956, which is still valid, or you could be progressive and you could be up to date, and you could be dealing with someone who's working with the revised taxonomy, cognitive areas only right now, because that's what we want to work on. How are we thinking? We did a couple of things. We switched a couple of levels because creation comes after mastery of skills. And we moved from nouns to verbs because we want it active. You shouldn't be sitting in your living room just listening. That's not how learning works. And even though that's what's happening right now, I'm going to transition it and you're going to do some work with it. So one of the things that we think is super important in education is it's not just about a theory. It's not just about something that you do in your free time. It's got to be something that you want to learn more about, that you can apply, and you can take it from class and put it into practice. So I have a brand new hero. Ben has been my hero for quite a long time, and if you ask any students who've been in my class, they will know that our Ben talks are just amazing. I'm just so impressed with him. But now I have a new phenomenal heartthrob for education, and it's Dr. Sandra Mcguire. And she taught me some new things when I was researching this for you, and I know I'm really old and I'm still learning new things, and that's one of the exciting things about education is there's always something new to learn. Sandra takes Bloom and teaches it to college and high school kids so they can start asking themselves, where am I on this with my coursework, and how should I switch it up to be able to get those grades that I want to earn? Sandra doesn't say it's just to apply for other people in school. Sandra says Bloom's taxonomy is something we should all do to analyze our own thinking and learning about all subjects. We're going to take a little preview of Sandra's, just a quick overview. She wants you to ask yourself a question. Do you work and study to make an A in the class? Or do you work and study to be able to teach that content to your class or to your grandfather or to anybody else? How would you answer that? I think this is a really easy, simple question, and yet for most of us, we study to make an A and then we forget about it, right? So let's see what Sandra has to share with us on that.
We need to teach Bloom's taxonomy to our students, because when students learn that there are different learning levels, their whole idea of what learning is can be transformed. When they get to us, they only know about memorizing information so that they can spit it back for a test. But we found that when we introduce Bloom's taxonomy to students and they see that there are higher levels, there's above remembering, there's understanding, applying, analyzing the different levels, many of them are very, very surprised, and they say, oh, I wish I'd known about this in high school. So it does give them a way to shoot for higher levels of learning. But if we don't explain Bloom's to them, they have no idea what we're talking about when we say we want you to think at higher levels, we want you to do critical thinking. And I think the other very important thing we can do is show them that on Bloom's taxonomy, understanding is only the second level. And so typically students think, well, if I understand this completely, I should be able to do very well. When we as faculty know, we want them to apply and analyze, which is higher than understanding. And so it really helps students have a much better grasp of what their job is, and they can adapt and adopt strategies to reach those higher levels if they know that the levels are there.
So that was just a quick preview of my newest educational heartthrob, Dr. Sandra Mcguire, and what she does in her Teaching and Learning Center with students. We're going to take an opportunity to look a little bit longer with her on this next one, because she's going to break down the levels and show you how it applies to things. So be thinking in the back of your mind how far education has come from no words to describe levels of learning to 2 taxonomies of cognitive thinking to now Dr. Sandra Mcguire, and she's turning it all around and giving it to students so they can make their learning richer and deeper and earn the grades and the futures that they've been trying to do without any type of skill set. So let's listen to what she says now.
Today we have Dr. Mcguire with us to talk about Bloom's taxonomy. Once again, Dr. Mcguire is the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Learning, Teaching, and Retention here at LSU. Thanks for coming in again.
Great, it's good to be here.
So what is Bloom's taxonomy?
Yes, great question. Bloom's taxonomy is actually a classification system that really looks at different levels of learning. And it starts with the very lowest level, which is just memorizing information. Then after that is understanding, then applying, then analyzing, then evaluating, and then creating is at the top.
Okay, and that's increasing in terms of difficulty, I guess?
Absolutely, in terms of the mental processes that you need in order to be able to effect each one of those levels.
Okay, and I want to talk about each level specifically.
Sure.
So let's start with level 1, remembering.
Yes, that's just memorizing information verbatim. If you were told to study something, you memorize all the definitions, you memorize all the formulas, and you kind of stop there.
Okay, and the second level is understanding?
Absolutely, it's one level up. Not only at this point do you remember those things, but you can actually restate them, put them in your own words, and do what I like to describe as you could take the information, explain it to your 80-year-old grandmother or your 8-year-old nephew in words they understand if you're at the understanding level.
And so really, ideally, you would want to study with someone to get to this understanding?
That would be great, because if you're explaining it to someone, then you're certainly implementing that understanding level.
Okay, and what's the third?
The third level is applying, and that's where you not only have remembered the information, you can put it in your own words, but you can use it to solve problems you've never seen before, answer questions you've never seen before. You can apply that information to another task.
Okay. Is this about where college is coming in now?
I'd say the very beginning of college, absolutely, but
okay.
It really requires even those higher levels.
Okay, which is, the next one is analyzing.
Absolutely. And analyzing means that you could take any concept and really break it down into the components that went into that concept. Do an analysis of it to see what the overall concept is. And so that involves, if someone asked you to explain, let's say, what a buffer solution is, you could talk about all of the different concepts, weak acids, strong acids, anything that goes into that discussion if you're at analyzing.
Okay. And level 5 is evaluating.
Yes, and actually there was an older version of Bloom's, which some of our listeners, our viewers might be familiar with, where the next level was not at the creating level. I'm sorry, not at the evaluating level, it was at the creating level. But now the evaluating level says that you know all this information, you can put it in your own words, you can analyze information. So now you can look at 2 ideas, 2 theories, 2 ways of solving a problem, and determine whether one of them is more likely to be effective than another.
Okay. And the last level is creating.
Absolutely. And so now that means that you could actually come up with your own theories, your own ideas, your own processes about how something should be done.
Can you change once you start your collegiate career? Can you change levels?
Oh, absolutely. We see that all the time because typically in high school, students have been operating just at the memorization and understanding level, but we can teach them how to move themselves higher, that they really are analyzing concepts and are now able to come up with their own theories and own processes.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming in. For more information, please visit our website.
So, Dr. Sandra Mcguire made it so clear about how we all, in every job, in every class, in every aspect of life, we can use Ben's original levels or the revised levels to help us perform better, to help us learn more deeply, to help the learning stick, to help those mental pictures in our head become richer and deeper by adding more information to them. I hope that you will take Dr. Mcguire's challenge and Ben's foundational work and use this to transform your thinking about the type of student and learning that college is going to ask you to do and become. And I think it's really important that we go back to Ben one more time, and he says to remember that what any one person can learn, almost all people can learn, given the right conditions and criteria and environment. And I think that's important because we always want to be gifted, but perhaps we could all be more gifted if we use these levels and we worked with people to help us achieve greater learning and deeper impact learning. At this time, I'd like to leave you with one more thought in the words of one of Ben's friends, Lauren. And I can imagine these two sitting at a Starbucks. Of course, there were no Starbucks then. But sitting there and talking in all sorts of contexts about learning and thinking and cognition. And Lauren went back and added a textbook version of Ben and his work. And this is one of the things that Lauren said, that talent is not something to be found in few. So this gifted notion is lovely, and it's probably true that some of us go farther faster, but talent can be developed in many. And so I want you to remember that no matter where you're currently functioning and no matter what your current place is, wherever you aspire to go, you can get there. We have to work together, and we have to be purposeful and deliberate about our work. So I can't wait to see you at JU, because we're going to have many more great conversations about Ben and Sandra and Lauren. And so hurry and get here. We've got exciting things to do because you're going to change education for the next generation.